hello, I got places to be.
What's up, guys? I'm here with John from Me Premier Bitcoin. It is the 3-year anniversary, is that right?
Yeah, it's our birthday this week.
All right, so happy birthday, Me Premier Bitcoin. Can you tell us about the journey so far here?
So, we started in 2021, 3 years ago. So the idea was that there's a problem with the world, and that is that we have lost agency in our own lives. And the solution to that is independent Bitcoin education. And then when El Salvador announced that they were adopting Bitcoin as legal tender, it was a signal. This could go in a variety of different ways. It is going to be an example for the world, one way or the other. That is decided. What is up to us is what sort of example, right? So I came to El Salvador in August 2021 with a one-way ticket, sold all my stuff because it was...
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was just looking at something. I was looking at the light. It was like, the blue light's not on, but I forgot I got my blue blockers on.
That was my idea when I came here to El Salvador in the first place, was to contribute to something that would ensure that the example of El Salvador was a positive one.
How has that experience been here, specifically in El Salvador, the growth that you've seen, the impact that you've had?
Yeah, so there's a lot of layers, right? I mean, one, it's been amazing to see the growth of Bitcoin, because 3 years ago here in San Salvador, adoption and knowledge of Bitcoin was very, very close to zero. So there's a long way to go, but it's been really cool to witness that journey from 0 to 1. I've actually been pleasantly surprised that there weren't more scams, because a country adopts Bitcoin as legal tender and nobody understands Bitcoin. That's a recipe for some bad stuff too. And not to say that that hasn't happened, but I think that's been mitigated a great deal by just people stepping up in their own communities who know a little bit more. And then besides Bitcoin, El Salvador has just changed so much in 3 years. Like, the average Salvadorian has hope that the future will be better than the present. And the average Bitcoiner has hope that the future will be better than the present. Like, I believe in Bitcoin because I believe in humanity, right? Because I believe that we have more potential. Bitcoin empowers the individual. So in order to believe in Bitcoin and believe that you want the individual to be empowered, you're an optimist. So there's this optimism that they have in common.
Now, as far as the education that you provide for the kids, how have they received that?
Yeah, really positively. So I don't know if you heard Jorge Luis. He was a student and now he's a teacher. And that happens a lot, but Jorge Luis is a little bit special because he was very strongly opposed to Bitcoin and he warned his community against it. So he took the class to get ammunition to better understand how Bitcoin is a scam. And through education, he realized that he was wrong, and it's actually kind of the opposite, right? It's a tool to empower his community. And now he's a huge advocate. He actually has a theology school, and now the stipend that all the young pastors earn is Bitcoin, right? Like, he's really incorporated into his life, and that's just one example.
Going back to Me Premier Bitcoin, what would you say is the coolest aspect of your program?
So we have a couple of different courses, but kind of our flagship is the Bitcoin Diploma, which is this 10-week course, and everything that we do is based on taking people off of zero. So the first page, class 1, is why Bitcoin, and it's usually blank or like a sentence or two. The last page of the last chapter asks why Bitcoin. There are lots of examples of students, so this is a homework assignment that they get for the final week. They staple pages on, additional pages on.
That's very cool.
And like, I'd love to see that transformation. And then the other really cool thing about Me Premier Bitcoin, I think, is the Node Network. So the Node Network is a group of educators from around the world who are just teaching in their own community. They use the same resources, so all the material that we create is open source. And the really cool thing about that is that it is a self-governing network. Like, we don't have any more control over that than any other node in the network.
And I guess the final question here, looking towards the future, what does it look like for Me Premier Bitcoin? And if you want to elaborate more so, what does it look like for Bitcoin adoption here in El Salvador?
So I think Me Premier Bitcoin will continue to grow, but not in a typical way. How we'll grow is we'll learn better how to empower others without controlling them, right? Because that's a process too. So the Node Network, for example, when it began, we decided when somebody applied whether they were in or not. right? So there's kind of a natural process to go towards this more empowered, decentralized network. And I think we're going to do that in a variety of sectors. One of the ways that we're going to do that, and this is something easier said than done, but we really believe in this value, is transparency, right? So we have recently on our website, we just break down just a percentage of category where our funding comes from. We want to continue to lead the way with transparency there. So we want to break down the numbers even more, but we want to do that to empower others to be like, oh, this is a proof of concept that we could get the majority of our funding grassroots, or this is a way that we could get grants, or whatever it is, right? But we want to learn how to do something well. And then second, we want to share that.
You're inspiring others through transparency, through opening your books, showing them how it's done, and basically spreading the knowledge that it takes to educate kids all around the world.
There's two choices to educate the world on Bitcoin. One is for an organization to be centralized and to dictate.
We've had plenty of that.
Yeah. And the other, which is harder, and there's not really solid templates for it, is to inspire a decentralized network by giving them best practices and examples. And yeah, that's what we hope to do. So long term, we hope to empower others, and by doing so, make ourselves less important and less relevant.
All right, guys, we're back over here at the Sovereignty Studios HQ. It was a great event. Thank you to John for taking the time to talk to us. And it's one of those things where we're seeing Bitcoin adoption happen from the ground up. Speaking of Bitcoin adoption, I want to tell you about Adopting Bitcoin 2024 here in El Salvador. It's the ultimate conference for Bitcoin builders. You got to check it out and get your privileged access pass. This is where you're going to be able to speak and shake hands with the organizers and the speakers at the conference. This is where you can get invites for all types of different satellite events and dinners. It all happens with the privileged access pass. Use code SOVStudios and get 10% off, and we'll see you in the privileged access area.